Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Satisfactory. I'm AxionEvolved, and last time, we got all of this aluminum set up. A little bit of decoration, everything looking good. Oh, by the way, decoupled camera. Look at this. Look at me just hanging out over the factory. Kind of sick. But yeah, so we got this all set up, and then we are going to set our sights on more power generation. So with all this out of the way, let's hop right in this episode. And Northern Coast, Spire Coast, whatever you want to call it, this gorgeous looking biome is where we're going to build our rocket fuel plant. And, crunching some numbers when it comes to power, I want to say that what I have planned here will give us enough power literally to beat the game. We're still going to go nuclear because why not? Like, I want to go through that process. But we should get kind of everything we need to build everything else we need from this project. So get a good look at this biome as it is because it's going to be changing. But let's talk rocket fuel real quick. Now, I've kind of laid out all the stuff we're going to need, right? So let's take a look at kind of what we have. And you can kind of see some of this stuff exists here, some of it doesn't. You see an absolute ton of oil, right? So that's kind of why we're doing this up here. 2,700 per minute oil to be exact. That's what we have available to us, right? We'll need about that much water, 2,600 per minute. Nitrogen, right? We need almost this much. I'll get into the details on the nitrogen in a moment. And then a little bit of iron. Now this sulfur right here. This is a huge limiting factor for how and why we're going to build the way we build. And again, I'll get into what I mean by that, but just remember this 1,200 per minute. I don't even remember where it is. I think the sulfur is like somewhere over here or something, but there's a pure node somewhere around here. In fact, can we ping it? Let's see if we can find it, because I do have to find it at some point, right? Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe there's just not a pure node anywhere around. But anyway, we're going to find a sulfur node, and that's where we're going to find one pure node, and we're going to dedicate that single pure node. So remember, 1,200 per minute with a Mark III miner on a pure node fully overclocked, right? That's kind of the limit there, right? And then, so that's going to bring us to this number right here. God, these are so low res when they're blown up like this. The fuel generator sprite there. That's what it's supposed to look like. That's what it actually looks like. Maybe it gets better as you get farther back. I don't know. 486 fuel generators at 250%. That's kind of crazy. Now, this number is, let's say, approximate, right? Because really, if we do 486 times 2.5, really we need about 1,200 generators, 1,215. So we're going to talk about this number too, because our goal is to make roughly 5,200 rocket fuel. And it uses a lot less oil than you would think, right? So apparently rock fuel is just like crazy, honestly. So a little bit of stuff here. We're going to need about 138 refineries, about 138 blenders, and we could make about 400 plastic from this too. And again, I'll kind of explain all that, right? But there's some things I need to do before we get started. So you'll notice I kind of have just this guy here for power, and this is not going to cut it, right? 550 megawatts. I'm using 130 just flying around, right? Well, 100 plus this, right? So we need to bring some power, and I think the best way to bring power is to kind of follow what we already did, where we brought our trains, our rails right up through here, right? So Big Dune Desert up here, our rails end like right here. So I want to kind of follow this canyon and bring a train station in. We're going to need to bring some kind of resources in anyway, but this will also let us kind of bring power over. So let's do that real quick. It should be pretty straightforward. And yeah, we'll pick up after that's kind of done. And again, a pretty straightforward endeavor. We're just kind of bringing it down. This is a really cool part of the map too, I think. This kind of like biome transition. And I mean, luckily this is all hooked up, right? So we got power on the rails, but like I think this is all considered part of the Spire Coast. You have kind of this plateau, not quite mesa, but I don't know. It's like this transitional desert area, and then it just goes into full on like lagoon beach setup with all of the the northern forest up there. It's just a really cool area, right? And I think there's even some resources like around here, right? I know there's some back there, but lots of stuff for us to kind of take advantage of. And then you can start to see we move into the beach area, right? But let's hop over to the train station. So a very basic train station setup. I have no actual stations, right? Because I don't know what or where or how we're going to bring stuff in, or what we, like what we even need to bring in. So right now it's just acting as a power conduit, and I'm using these power towers to bring power way down to where we're going to need it, right? So God, look at how gorgeous this is. I absolutely love it, right? And I've also been kind of working on some blueprints, some potential blueprints, right? Or at least design features over here for this biome, right? And you might notice I'm kind of working on this kind of design because I almost want this to be like semi-submerged, right? I just really like this idea. This is kind of a higher up, but with nudging and all that, we can really play with the elevation. And but I really like this white, like this ultra white concrete. And so that's kind of what we're going to use for this area. And so I was just kind of messing around with some blueprints here. I've also, if we look over here, well, you can't really see it, but over here is the nitrogen node that we're going to be grabbing. And I've just kind of ran it back somewhere over here. We'll need to start also getting the oil and kind of figuring all that out, right? But I want to talk design, right? What do I want to do here? And I think I've settled on using this area over here. This kind of central lagoon looking thing, right? And what I want to do is I want to make a hexagon. I love hexagons. I think they're super cool. So right now, I'm going to make an equilateral hexagon, right? So that means 6 sides, all the same length, right? And right now I have 10 foundations. And of course, we're using this nice white, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to grab the road barrier, right? And so we all know this, if you kind of, each click of the mouse wheel is 15-degree increments, right? So I know that a hexagon has 120-degree angles, right? So right now you can think about this as 180. You can think about it as 90. It depends on, are you going off this face or this face, right? Either way, this face might be easier. 120 degrees is 90 plus 30, right? So 30 out here. So if I have this 90-degree angle, now it's minus 15, minus 30, right? So now it's minus 30 degrees, right? So this is what, 150. So if I go again, now this is a 135-degree or a 45-degree angle, and I need this angle to be 30 degrees. So really, that's just one more click. Boom.
While I admire your investment in your work, invest it somewhere more productive.
Thanks, Ada. I think educating everybody is more important. Thank you. Okay, so we're just going to go out 10 more. And then I'm going to grab this, and I'm just going to go to wherever this ends, and I'm going to do the same thing. The easiest way for me is, I know that if this is in the middle, that it's 45 degrees. So if I just go one more click, boom, I know we're good, right? And I'm just going to literally follow that process all the way to the end. And when I get to the last one here, if I did everything right, and I mean, we look close, this should connect up over here perfectly. Excellent. Now, this technique is kind of cool because you can do literally any size hexagon. So with this hexagon built, we kind of need to talk about what the plan is for all this, right? So my idea is that we're going to bring these walls up so they're about maybe that high, right? We have some terrain that we kind of need to get around. And then what I want to do is kind of make this, I don't know, this like leafed design where we're kind of going out from each face in different ways, like these leaf looking structures where we're going to put everything. And I'll explain a little bit more once we actually start building it. And I think I'll actually get some stuff placed down, so it should all kind of work out, right? But to really understand what we're going to put in here, we have to go to the Hall of Planning. And that's right over there. But before we get into the hall of planning, I want to kind of show you what I'm planning on doing with this. So here's the wall somewhat built up. There's more to come, right? But we got a bunch of little intakes down here that we're going to send the resources in, because I think that just looks really nice. And then we're kind of, you can see over here, we're going to kind of use my blueprint that I was working on down here. And here's, like, for example, this is the first oil that we're bringing in, right? First oil pipe, it comes way over there. And I'm even running the power down in the little trench thing. So, you know, it's like semi-submerged, and this is kind of just how I want to bring in all of the materials. I think it looks super cool. And I'm going to make sure, or at least try, to use this as much as I can. You know, I might have to splice some of them together, but I almost want them to look like tendrils coming out, you know. This will get higher. This is not high enough yet. I just kind of, you know, put a little bit of stuff in here. We'll do load balancing, or maybe even some, I don't know, some construction or something, some production in here, possibly. I'm going to have to see. Load balancing, oil, maybe, who knows, right? But let's run over here to the Hall of Planning. And we got that nice roll-up door. Hello, Mr. Bean. Nice roll-up door. Hello. Thank you. Okay, so we have option 1, option 2. What differentiates them is the recipes we're using, right? So if we look at rocket fuel, there we go. We have 2 recipes: nitro rocket fuel, rocket fuel. This is the base, this is the alternate, right? Quick look. That doesn't look too complicated. 2 items in, 2 items out. Nitro rocket fuel, 4 items in, 2 items out, but this one has a much, well, 150 per minute, 100 per minute, right? Turbo fuel to rocket fuel, or fuel to rocket fuel, right? So 2 different recipes, both with advantages and disadvantages. And we're going to talk about why we're picking one of them over the other, right? But first things first, let's look at this alternate recipe, right? And I've kind of laid out everything here. And this is all based on using 300 oil per minute as a limit and no other limits. No other material limits, right? So pretty easy. We're going to heavy oil residue, and then to diluted fuel in some blenders. And then it literally just a few more machines into the nitro rocket fuel. So diluted fuel, or I guess fuel. This is, what do we got? This is coal, this is sulfur, and this is nitrogen gas, right? And all of that in 8 blenders makes 1,200 rocket fuel per minute, which, if we were to pump that all into fuel generators, 288 generators, making a total of around 78,000 megawatts, all from 300 oil. Kind of crazy. You know, we have a little bit of byproduct there with some polymer resin, and we have some compacted coal that we'd have to get rid of, but all in all, pretty easy to set up. And also, like 16 blenders and 10 refineries for the whole thing. That's super easy to set up. But let's look at this real quick. I want you to take some notes here, or take note of this. This is what we would need for 300 oil, 800 nitrogen gas, 400 coal, 800 sulfur, 600 nitrogen gas. Oh, I'm sorry, 800 water, 600 nitrogen gas. These 2 especially, very high, because remember, we got to make essentially 6 modules, 6 of these production chains. So if we started looking at some of that, well, 800 times 6, ooh, that's a lot of sulfur. 600 times 6, that's a lot of nitrogen. And remember, I have limits that I'm trying to set. So if we look over at option 2, this is the default recipe. And I'll tell you, it is more complicated. It's a lot more complicated, but same 300 oil. We're essentially turning that into heavy oil residue, which we split between something making petroleum coke, that same diluted fuel blender from here, right? And then that kind of goes into this turbo blend fuel, right? Where we're bringing in sulfur, a lot less sulfur, heavy oil residue. This is petroleum coke. And this is fuel, right? And then over here, because remember, I'm sorry, this is making turbo fuel. So diluted fuel into turbo fuel. This is also making turbo fuel with petroleum coke and with fuel. And this down here, we have some iron for iron plates, and we're making nitric acid, which is water nitrogen gas, and iron plates. All of that feeds into the rocket fuel blender, where we're taking 2 different sources of turbo fuel and that nitric acid, and we are making turbo fuel with the byproduct of petroleum coke, which we feed back into this turbo fuel factory. So kind of nice that that byproduct is at least reused. And you can notice right away, let's see, we have 27 blenders, 16 refineries. I'm sorry, more refineries up here. This is 1 refinery, so 17 refineries, constructors, smelters, some minor, all of that to make 727 turbo fuel for about 43,750 megawatts. Now, on paper, this looks so much worse. And it basically is a lot worse if you do not limit the amount of resources, right? If you just put as much as these recipes call for, this is a great recipe. But let's look at the inputs. For the same 300 oil, you only need 172 sulfur. You only need 300 nitrogen gas, no coal, a lot less water, a little bit of iron, right? Same waste, we're still making that 200 polymer resin. So let's look at this with limits, right? So this is option 1, which is this recipe, the nitro rocket fuel recipe with limits on how much nitrogen gas we can take and how much sulfur we can use. Suddenly, yeah, things get a lot smaller, like way less machines, but you're only making 18,000 megawatts now. And with those same restrictions placed on this, the recipe doesn't change. Well, actually it goes up a little bit when you kind of give it a little bit more recipes, right? Or a little bit more leeway. So we're going to go option 2, which is way more complicated. And it's going to have way more machines. I mean, look at that. 200-ish fuel generators. That's crazy, right? But ultimately, it's going to, I think it's going to be fine. And I think we're going to end up getting, right? What is that? 5,750 times 6. That's a lot of power still. That's a ton of power. Plenty of power. So, with that kind of settled, and I'll be referring to this and some spreadsheets and stuff that I have to help me make sure I build this correctly. We're going to need to get into the resource gathering phase here soon. But we also need to kind of build where this is going to go, right? So now that we have kind of this thing situated and started, it's time to expand on this and kind of work out the design and kind of show you guys what I have in mind. Okay, it's later in the day and we've gone up, right? So let me kind of give you a view of what we're doing here, right? So what I'm doing is something like this, where I am making these large platforms that are kind of going to be touching, right? And I'm using the same kind of angles we have down here to make everything line up, right? So you can see over here, I've done a little bit more work, but here's kind of what I'm thinking, right? I want these like pedal looking things that are going out in every direction, and we're above the terrain. So they're going to go out in every direction and they're going to connect like that, right? Now, there's the elephant in the room. Fuel generators aren't small. They're not small at all. In fact, I'm going to place some down over here so we can see exactly how many fit, because I don't actually know. I just know we aren't going to put 200 in this space right here. So let me actually do that real quick, and then we'll talk more. Okay, so as the morning light is coming in here, I took some time to slap down some fuel generators here. And let's say things aren't looking good, right? So if I kind of do some math here, there should be 10, 11, 12 rows of 6. So that right there is 72, right? 12 times 6. Yeah, 72. And I could fit in maybe 4 more over here. I messed around with this in terms of like, could I fit 6? But if I leave myself space for pipes, and I'm giving myself only 4 nudges, right? And if we look at pipes here, let's see. Pipe junction, what do we got? I guess you could argue that I could maybe put everything in a little bit closer. I just don't know if that actually gives me, you know, like another fuel generator. So we're looking like 76 per leaf, let's call these. And leaves are going to be kind of small, right? So one of the things I'm thinking about doing, let's not fall here, is something like this, right? So if we take our road barrier here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, and we kind of
Stop wasting time.
okay. Thank you, Ada. Did not need that. You know, we do something like this, right? So if I, let's see here. If I get rid of this for now, and I do, where does that go? I'm probably gonna fall out of the sky here. Is that right? 1, 2, 3 on the fourth one. 1, 2, 3. I mean, that seems about right, but maybe not quite. Basically, what I want to do, right, is I want to come up, you know, X amount. Maybe just the full 10. And I want to make another hexagon. So this is the midpoint, right? I might need to, like, actually shift this over. Right? I might need to do this. Here, let me get rid of this. We can do this. 2, 3, 4.5. Like maybe something like this, right? So let's go 5 that way. Let's go 5 this way. Right? So I make, essentially what I want to do is make a leaf that is centered. Oh, come on. We can get some power, guys, here. Let's just put you right there. Make the center of a new leaf. Oh, maybe that's the issue, is that I'm going with that. But anyway, use this point right here as the center of a new leaf, right? So one of these that's in between these two. And then I'll use that as another floor, and then I'll go back to this one on a third level, right? So it'll be, let's say, first floor, second floor, third floor going out this way. And I think by doing that, I should be able to feed all of the machines, because the idea is that I do the oil processing and all of that stuff up at the highest level, and then I have all the fluids trickle down using gravity to get to where they need to go. That's the idea. I think that could work. And I think it'll look good, honestly. I got to mess with the design a little bit more, obviously, and do a little bit more, but I think this is going to look good when all is said and done. And it'll be quite a sight to behold when you actually get out here. So, I think we're going to call it here. Let me know what you guys think of this design. Let me know what you think of both the design of the factory and of the decision to go with the recipe we're going with. Let me know if you do it different down below. Anyway. All right, guys. Thank you all so much. And we'll see you in the next one.